Nectar of Devotion by Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī, translated by Śrīla Prabhupada. Chapter 5. The Purity of Devotional Service. All of the previous instructions imparted by Rūpa Gosvāmī in his broad statements can be summarized thus. As long as one is materially inclined, or desirous of merging into the spiritual effulgence, one cannot enter into the realm of pure devotional service. Next, Rūpa Gosvāmī states that devotional service is transcendental to all material considerations, and that it is not limited to any particular country, class, society, or circumstance. As stated in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, devotional service is transcendental and has no cause. Devotional service is executed without any hope for gain, and it cannot be checked by any material circumstances. It is open for all, without any distinction, and it is the constitutional occupation of the living entities. In the Middle Ages, after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya's great associate, Lord Nityananda, a class of priestly persons claimed to be the descendants of Nityananda, calling themselves the Gosvāmī class. They further claimed that the practice and spreading of devotional service belonged only to their particular class, which was known as Nityananda Vangsha. In this way they exercised their artificial power for some time, until Śrīla Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the powerful Acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, completely smashed their idea. There was a great hard struggle for some time, but it has turned out successfully, and it is now correctly and practically established that devotional service is not restricted to a particular class of men. Besides that, anyone who is engaged in devotional service is already at the status of being a high-class Brahmana. So Śrīla Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's struggle for this movement has come out successful. It is on the basis of his position that anyone can now become a Gaudiya Vaishnava from any part of the world or any part of the universe. Anyone who is a pure Vaishnava is situated transcendentally, and therefore the highest qualification in the material world, namely to be in the mode of goodness, has already been achieved by such a person. Our Krishna consciousness movement in the Western world is based on the above-mentioned proposition of Śrīla Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Gosvāmī Prabhupada, our spiritual master. On his authority, we are claiming members from all sections of the Western countries. The so-called Brahmanas claim that one who is not born into a Brahmana family cannot receive the sacred thread and cannot become a high-grade Vaishnava. But we do not accept such a theory because it is not supported by Rūpa Gosvāmī nor by the strength of various scriptures. Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī specifically mentions herein that every man has a birthright to accept devotional service and to become Krishna conscious. He has given many evidences from many scriptures, and he has especially quoted one passage from the Padma Purana, wherein the sage Vasishtha tells King Dilip, "My dear king, everyone has the right to execute devotional service, just as he has the right to take early bath in the month of Magh, December, January." Just a comment here that this is a common austerity in India, is to take birth on the Sankranti, or the division between the months of January and February, the month of Magh. And of course in India it's very cold at that time. But the Kumbh Mela and other big festivals are held at that time specifically for taking bath in the Ganges in the very cold water. So everyone has the right to perform this austerity, So if that's true, then everyone has the right to perform devotional service. Nobody is excluded. There is more evidence in the Skanda Purana, in the Kashi Kandha portion, where it is said, "In the country known as Mayuradhvaj, the lower caste people who are considered less than Shudras are also initiated into the Vaishnava cult of devotional service. And when they are properly dressed, with tilak on their bodies and beads in their hands and on their necks, they appear to be coming from Vaikuntha. In fact, they look so very beautiful that immediately they surpass the ordinary brahmanas." Thus, a Vaishnava automatically becomes a brahmana. This idea is also supported by Sanatana Goswami in his book Hari Bhakti Vilas, which is the Vaishnava Guide. Therein, he has clearly stated that any person who is properly initiated into the Vaishnava cult certainly becomes a brahmana, as much as the metal known as Kangsa, bell metal, is turned into gold by the mixture of mercury. A bona fide spiritual master, under the guidance of authorities, can turn anyone to the Vaishnava cult, so that naturally he may come to the topmost position of a brahmana. So this whole first section is about the idea that devotional service to Krishna is open to everyone. And we might think, well, of course, that sounds obvious. But that's not at all an obvious sounding idea against the background of class consciousness and material consideration of identity. In India, especially, various different classes and castes of people have tried to monopolize devotional service to Krishna and say that others born in other countries or in other races cannot really join into it. For example, even a foreign-born Brahmana devotee cannot enter into certain temples, like the Jagannath temple in Puri, and like that, because of this body consciousness, that, oh, you are not born in this country, then you can't go in the temple, which is silly, because God is everywhere. And devotional service cannot be checked by any material condition, because God is omnipresent. He's in everyone's heart, of every race and every country. So the whole idea that someone from a particular country or race can't perform devotional service is ridiculous. However, there was a big fight necessary to establish this, and a lot of effort had to be made to allow Westerners to become Vaishnavas. It wasn't easy. It wasn't a slam dunk. It was a big struggle. So our predecessor spiritual masters engaged in that struggle, and they performed so much work, endeavor on our behalf, so that we could be admitted into the, as Prabhupada says, the cult of devotional service. That simply means that we have like a club. We have a group, and to be admitted to this group is actually a great privilege, because we are immediately at least on the status of Brahmana, if not above. A Brahmana is simply one who knows that he is Brahman. He is spirit. And that's established in the second canto of the Bhagavad-gītā. So what's the big deal? But if one realizes that he is spirit, not just talks about it, then he acts on the spiritual platform, and that is the qualification of a Vaishnava. Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī warns, however, that if a person is properly initiated by a bona fide spiritual master, he should not think that simply by the acceptance of such initiation his business is then finished. One still has to follow the rules and regulations very carefully. If, after accepting the spiritual master and being initiated, one does not follow the rules and regulations of devotional service, then he is again fallen. One must be very vigilant to remember that he is the part and parcel of the transcendental body of Krishna. and that it is his duty as part and parcel to give service to the whole, or Krishna. If we do not render service to Krishna, then again we fall down. In other words, simply becoming initiated does not elevate one to the position of a high-class brahmana. One also has to discharge the duties and follow the regulative principles very rigidly. Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī also says that if one is regularly discharging devotional service, there will be no question of a fall down. But even if circumstantially there is some fall down, the Vaishnava need have nothing to do with the prayaschita, the ritualistic ceremony for purification. If someone falls down from the principles of devotional service, he need not take to the prayaschita performances for reformation. He simply has to execute